Good morning, everyone. In this video, we're going to discuss the revised Bloom's Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. I am Alcana Alzafra,
And I am Andrea Uso.
and we are the reporters. First, we have the advanced organizer, the original Bloom's Taxonomy,
The 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy,
the revised taxonomy,
2 dimension of the revised taxonomy,
the practical guide to the revised taxonomy.
Bago tayo magsimula, imagine that you are already working as a teacher. Ano yung mararamdaman mo sa pagpasok sa classroom nang walang specific learning outcomes? Paano ka mag-proceed without clear and specific target? Di ba mahirap yun? Kaya nga, being sure about your learning outcomes will help you to facilitate learning effectively.
Sa module na ito ay ipapresent namin ang original at revised Bloom's Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. Kahit na yung revised taxonomy lumabas po siya years ago, it is still important to still present both the old and the revised para magkaroon tayo ng complete understanding and better appreciation of the taxonomy's use in education. First, we had the old taxonomy. In 1956, the Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, the Classification of Educational Goals Handbook 1 Cognitive Domain was published. Initially, the purpose was simply to have a framework to classify test questions that faculty teachers shared. However, eventually it becomes so relevant and useful to education. Since then and up to this present, it is being used in planning the curriculum, planning learning activities, and assessment. So noong 1956, doon na isagawa yung pinakaunang book about taxonomy po na pinamagatan natin the Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. Nung purpose lang po na sana yun is para magkaroon ng framework yung mga teachers or mga faculty para alamin yung mga test questions na binibigay nila. Ngunit, naging napaka-relevant nyo na naging napakahalaga sa education. Kaya mula noon hanggang ngayon, ito na po yung model na ginamit para pagplan ng curriculum, iplano yung mga learning activities na gagamitin at pagiging yung assessment. Bloom's taxonomy was a model to describe the different levels of objectives that target what skills and competences the teachers aim to develop in the learners. The taxonomy in the cognitive domain contains the 6-level progress from simple to more complex levels of thinking. So yung Bloom's taxonomy, isa siyang model na describe niya yung levels of objectives ng isang teacher. Halimbawa sa classroom, mayroon tayong mga objectives na kung saan yun yung nais natin na matutunan ng mga estudyante. Specifically, meron po siyang 6 cognitive domains na magmula sa simple hanggang sa complex.
Next is proponent, which is Benjamin Bloom, in 1913 to 1999. Associate Director of the Board for Examination in the University of Chicago for 6 years from 1949 to 1956. He led a group of experts to come up with a framework to classify objectives.
So as you can see, siya po yung proponent o siya po yung nakaisip ng idea ng taxonomy. Kung saan, for over 6 years na po, from 1949 to 1956, siya po yung nanguna sa mga group of expert na magkaroon ng framework o ng balangkas na kung saan nagka-classify, nagka-identify ng objectives na binibigay ng mga teachers sa part of the learning teaching process.
Here is the original Bloom's taxonomy, cognitive domain levels and their subcategories. First, we have knowledge, comprehension. Third, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation.
So, yan po yung pyramid na kung saan nagpapakita po ng domain levels at ng mga categories. So, magsisimula tayo sa knowledge hanggang evaluation na kung saan yung knowledge yun po yung pinaka-simple at yung evaluation naman po yung pinaka-complex.
So when we say cognitive domain po, it means na nakafocus sa acquisition of knowledge. Kung paano ba natututo yung isang bata sa paaralan, kung paano niya na-adapt yung mga learning, ano yung ginagamit niyang learning styles. And since hierarchical order po siya, so magsisimula sa knowledge, so yun yung pinaka-basic na dapat ma-acquire ng isang learner. Hanggang dumating sa evaluation na kung saan also known as level of expertise na rin siya kasi yung magagawa mo lang yun, that means na nakaproceed ka na sa pinakamababang steps from basic to being an expert. Isa-isahin po natin para mas magkaroon pa tayo ng sapat na idea kung ano nga po ba yung 6 na different levels of domains na ito. So sa knowledge, it means na marunong po tayo mag-recall ng mga information of the past na kung saan yung mga dating ideas mo, like nung elementary ka pa, nadadala mo pa rin up to high school, up to college, nandun pa rin yung stock knowledge na na-stored sa iyong memory. For example, pag tinanong ng teacher yung mga students na ano yung mabibigay nila halimbawa ng creatures is madali naman nila masasagot yun kasi nga yung napag-aralan nila in the previous grade levels, sa grade 1 pa lang natuturo na yun. So, hanggang pataas ng pataas yung level, na-adapt pa rin nila, alam pa rin nila at kaya pa rin nilang sagutin yung tanong kasi nandoon pa rin yung information, hindi nawawala. So, sa comprehension naman po, about naman yun sa type of understanding natin or apprehension na kung saan, paano nga ba tayo mag-intindi sa isang particular topic. So, sa pangatlong level naman, which is application, yun naman po yung paggamit natin ng abstract sa iba't ibang situations na kung saan, paano nga ba natin na i-apply in our personal or daily lives yung mga natutunan natin sa paaralan. Fourth naman po, which is the analysis. Ito sa part na to yung is marunong tayong mag-analyze, marunong tayong maghiwalay ng general and specific topics at alam din natin yung buong concept or thought. Meanwhile, sa synthesis naman, ito yung kung saan yung mga different parts, ibubuuin natin siya at magiging as a whole. Like for example, yung isang teacher, natutunan niya yung mga estudyante na yung sira-sirang Rubik's Cube is pagbuuhin nila para maging buong part. And the last but not the least, the evaluation, na kung saan nandun na yung pagiging critic natin, na kung saan kailangan marunong tayong mag-judge. Kailangan i-examine natin yung relevant at mahalagang information. Next slide po, ma-highlight natin yung 6 levels na yan along with their sample verbs.
First, we have knowledge. 1.1, knowledge of specific. Dito nakapaloob ang terminology, specific facts. Sa 1.2, knowledge of ways and means of dealing with the specific. Dito naman nakapaloob ang convention, trend and sequences, classification and categories, criteria and methodology. Sa 1.3, knowledge and universal and subtraction in the field. Dito naman nakapaloob ang principles and generalizations, theories and extractions. Ang sample verbs ng knowledge ay define, describe, draw, identify, label, locate, memorize, name, recite, recognize, select, state, and write.
Next sa knowledge ay comprehension, na kung saan ito napapalooban ng translation, interpretation, and extrapolation. Ang sample verbs niya po ay paraphrase, summarize, restate, retell, illustrate. Sa pangatlo naman, we have the application, change, prepare, produce. And the fourth one, which is the analysis, we have the elements, relationships, organizational principles. It includes analyze, subdivide, take apart, investigate, compare, contrast, and infer.
Sa panglima ay ang synthesis. Dito nakapaloob ang production of unique communication, production of plans or proposed set of operation, derivation of a set of abstract relations. Ang kanyang sample verb, combine, organize, design, and formulate. Sa number 6 naman ay ang evaluation. Dito nakapaloob ang in terms of internal evidence, in terms of external evidence. Ang kanyang sample verb ay assist, appraise, critique, judge, and recommend.
So for us to be able to identify what really Bloom Taxonomy is, meron po tayo dito ng example of educational objectives na kung saan, let's just say, meron po tayong story na pinamagatang the word is an apple. So, ganito po yung magiging format niya. At the end of the unit, the students will be able to, so first, pasok pa sa knowledge, enumerate the characters in the word is an apple. So sa comprehension naman po, ang gagawin is summarize the story. Sa pangatlong process, application na po yun. Doon i-apply yung rules of subject-verb agreement when writing a summary of the story. Sa analysis naman, compare and contrasting the qualities of the characters in the story. At sa panglima, the synthesis, we're gonna write a song expressing the message or lesson of the story. At yung pinaka-last po na part ng levels ay ang evaluation, na kung saan yun na po yung pinaka-complex kasi mag-write ng critique sa author's writing style, kung paano sinulat ng author yung isang akda niya. So, napag-aralan na natin yung old taxonomy, kung paano nga po yun siya ginagamit sa learning, paggawa ng learning objectives. Ngayon nadako tayo sa revised taxonomy. So, in 2000, Lauren Anderson and David Cratwell updated Bloom's seminal framework to create Bloom's revised taxonomy. So, yun, binago po, ni-revise po ni Lauren at ni David yung taxonomy na kung saan may na-highlights na siyang 2 dimensions, the cognitive and the knowledge. So, sa the cognitive dimension, ang pinapapalooban po yun ay yung hierarchical or ordered levels of thinking. Yun na yung remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Meanwhile, yung the knowledge dimension naman, may 4 categories siya, which is the factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. So, sa paggawa ng learning objectives, kinoconsider mo na yung level of thinking ay part siya ng cognitive. Yun yung kung ano yung gusto mong ma-achieve ng estudyante mo at kung ano naman yung knowledge na gusto mong i-teach. Doon po nakahati yung cognitive and knowledge. Doon siya kung paano din distribute sa paggawa ng learning objectives. So, para mas lalo po nating maintindihan kung ano nga po ba yung revised taxonomy, so ito meron tayong ditong graphic organizer na kung saan pinapakita na yung differences between the cognitive dimension at the knowledge dimension. So, sa cognitive domain, meron po tayo itong 1 to 6 levels na nagsisimula sa remember na kung saan yun yung pag-retrieve natin ng mamahalagang informasyon galing sa ating long-term memory, which includes recognizing, recalling. Okay. Sa pangalawa naman, meron po tayong understand na kung saan ni-determine natin yung meaning, yung kahulugan ng instructional messages sa pamamagitan ng oral, written, at graphic communication. So, under nyon ay yung interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining. Sa pangatlo naman, paano natin siya na-apply? Ito po yung pag-carry out natin ng mga procedures sa isang sitwasyon. Pinapalooban to ng pag-execute natin at pag-implement. So, sa 4th level, we have the analysis, na kung saan yung isang material, binibreak natin siya sa continuance niya sa mga part A. And, inaalam natin yung mga parts na mahalaga na relate sa isa't isa at sa pangkabuuan. Ang kinapapalooban yon ay yung pag-differentiate, yung pag-organize at pag-a-attribute. So, the 5th one, yung evaluate. Yun naman po yung pagkakaroon natin ng judgment galing sa criteria at sa mga standards na naibigay. So, ang under naman yun is yung pag-checking natin at yung pag-criticize. So, lastly, we have the create. Ito naman yung paglalagay natin ng elements together para makabuo ng overall coherent whole or makaproduce tayo ng original product. So, ang under niya naman ay yung pag-generate, pagpaplano, at pag-produce.
Sa knowledge of dimension, dito nakapaloob ang factual. The basic elements that a student must know knowledge of terminology, specific details, and elements. Sa conceptual naman, the interrelationship among the basic elements within a larger structures that enable them to function together. Knowledge of classifications and categories, principles and generalizations, theories and models and structures. Sa procedural knowledge naman ay how to something methods of inquiry and criteria for using scales, algorithms, techniques and methods. Knowledge of subject-specific skills and algorithm, subject-specific techniques and methods, criteria for determining when to use appropriate procedures. Sa metacognitive knowledge naman ay knowledge to cognitions in general as well as awareness and knowledge of one's own cognition. First is strategic knowledge, knowledge about cognitive tasks including contextual and conditional knowledge, and the last is self-knowledge.
Okay, let's proceed to the differences between the old and the revised taxonomies. So, syempre po, kung ma-revise yung taxonomy, meron na yun siyang pagkakaiba. So first, we have the levels or categories of thinking in the old taxonomy were nouns, while in the revised they are verbs. So kung mapapansin nyo yung levels of categories na 1 to 6, nung una sa old taxonomy, nouns lang po siya. Then nung na-revise na, verbs na po yung ginamit, kaya may mga nabago. While the revised taxonomy remains to be in a hierarchical levels of increasing complexity, it is intended to be more flexible in that it allows the categories to overlap. So, yun yung the knowledge level, napalitan siya sa remember. Yung comprehension level, kung mapapansin nyo, binago at ginawing understand. Yung synthesis naman, tinalitan siya ng create at nalagay siya as pinaka-highest level. So, yung cognitive domain naman, nagkaroon na po siya ng 2 dimensions, diba, sa revise, na kung saan yung cognitive and knowledge dimension. Kasi ng old, wala po yun. So, that is the differences sa bago at lumang revised taxonomies, na kung saan effective naman po siya na nagamit ng mga teachers at iba pang personnel sa paggawa ng learning objective.
Dito naman, ito yung graphic organizer ng Bloom's Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. Sa Bloom's Taxonomy Cognitive Domains, nahahati ito sa dalawa. Yun ay Old One Dimension and Revised Taxonomy. Sa Old Dimension ay nakapaloob dito ay ang una ay ang knowledge, pangalawa comprehension, pangatlo is application, pang-apat analyze, at panglima is synthesis, at ang pinakahuli ay evaluation. Sa revised taxonomy naman, ito ay nahati naman sa dalawang dimension. Yun ang cognitive dimension at ang knowledge dimension. Sa cognitive dimension, nakapaloob ang remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, at ang create. Sa knowledge dimension naman, dito nakapaloob ang factual, conceptual, procedural, at metacognition.
So, sa table na ito, makikita po natin yung knowledge dimension na kung saan meron tayong cognitive dimension, mayroong factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. So, makikita natin yung dalawang dimension kung paano nga sila na-apply na magkasama. So, sa remember, meron tayong itong recognize or recall. So, remember, nagagamit natin siya ng fact is yung example, I list the ingredients of kare-kare. So, yun natin example. Sa concepts naman, meron tayong i-describe natin yung kare-kare as a Filipino dish. So, remember na under ng procedures ay may procedures, di ba? So, kailangan yung i-recall natin yung steps sa pagluluto ng kare-kare. So, sa pinaka-last naman is yung metacognitive knowledge natin. Ang example naman dito, review natin yung task na na-accomplish sa pagluluto ng kare-kare. So, yan po yung ating example sa remember.
Sa number 2 naman ay ang understand. Ito yung mga verb na kailangan nating gamitin. First ay interpret, exemplify, classify, summarize, infer, compare, and explain. Sa understand facts, example is summarize the features of the latest smartphone model. Sa understand concept naman ay example ay classify smartphones according to the operating system. Dito naman sa procedural ay i-describe the procedures of sending group message using cellphone. Sa understand metacognitive knowledge naman ay dito, i-choose mo yung best strategies to adjust quickly and using a different smartphone. Sa number 3 naman ay ang apply, to execute, implement. Sa pag-a-apply ng facts, example is use fact and answering question. Sa concept naman ay ang i-demonstrate coherence and answering question. Sa apply and procedure naman, example is follow the PQ for our step in the reading the chapter. Sa metacognitive naman ay ang use the best study strategy to overcome one's weakness.
So, number 4, analyze. Yung mga sample verbs na pwede po natin gamitin ay differentiate, organize, and attribute. So, sa analysis na fact, ang example dito ay is identify the keywords in the definition of anger. Sa concept naman is identify triggers of anger among teenagers. Sa procedure, examine the different steps family members take to manage anger. At sa metacognitive knowledge is reflect on one's ability to manage anger. So sa evaluate naman, yung sample verbs na pwede po natin gamitin ay either check or critic. So sa evaluate facts is Ang example ay select the most complete list of investment banks. Sa concept, critique the different views. Sa procedure, choose the best ways to invest money. And sa metacognitive knowledge is assess one's financial literacy. Sa 6 naman is create. Sample verbs na pwede natin gamitin ay generate, plan, and produce. So, sa create of facts, ang example ay produce a presentation showing award-winning adobo recipes. Sa concept, write an informal essay about what authentic adobo is. Sa procedures, ang example ay create a new recipe for cooking adobo. And sa metacognitive knowledge naman is example ay gumawa ng project about adobo as a Filipino dish based on one's talent.
The last but not the least, we have the practical guide in using the revised taxonomy. Kung saan dito natin siya gagamitin ng actual, ng practical, yung revised taxonomy. So, we have the cognitive dimension levels, at yung kanilang sample action words, and yung mga sinasuggest na mga activities sa school or outputs. Okay, let's start with remembering or recalling information. Since nabanggit na rin po namin earlier yung sample action words, yung na-mention na lang namin is yung mga suggested activities na pwedeng gawin natin sa paaralan. So, in the remembering, the suggested activities are citations, worksheets, definitions, fact charts, or list. Sa understand naman, which is all about explaining informations and concepts. Ang suggested activities natin ay story problems, drawing show and tell, summary, and paraphrasing. Third is the apply, yun yung pag-use ng information and a new way. The suggested activities are presentation, role-playing, simulation, collection, model, scrapbook, and product. Fourth one is the analyze, distinguishing different parts of a whole. Ang suggested activities niya ay pwede natin gawin yung chart plan, questionnaire, spreadsheet, summary, and survey. Next is evaluate or defending a concept or idea. The suggested activities are opinion, judgment, recommendation, report, self-evaluation, position paper, and critic. And the last is create or creating something new. Yung suggested activities niya naman ay framework, model, story, multimedia presentation, poem, haiku, song, essay, and many more. Okay, so let's have a quick summarization of the whole topic. So, ang Bloom's Taxonomy ay nakahati sa original at revised. Kung saan yung original, yung 6 levels niya ay knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Meanwhile, sa bago, naging remembering or remember, understand, apply, analysis, evaluate, and create. So, kung mananotice nyo doon sa old na pinropose ni Benjamin Bloom noong 1956, nouns yung ginagamit. Pero sa new na nabuo noong 2000 ni Anderson and Cratwell, naging verbs na po siya. So, yung 2 dimension ng revised taxonomy is cognitive dimension and knowledge dimension. Sa practical guide naman, ito yung mga paano natin mai-apply sa classroom yung mga objectives. So, that is all. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you for listening po.